Results are always the name of the game. Now, I don't want you to be controlled by it, but I want you to observe it. I want you to observe it. Now, throughout this, if you want to change your financial life, then you want to pay close attention to what I'm doing, okay? Because this is a skill that separates people who struggle financially from people who scale financially. Now, I want you to take that in. Do you want to scale? Like you're with you, you know your goal. Do you want to scale? And it separates those who are constantly chasing money from those who have money chasing them. And if you master this skill, your income becomes predictable. You're going to be in peace of mind and you are going to be in control of your life. But if you neglect it, I promise you, you're going to grind and you're going to constantly go up and down and be stuck. Now, this is why I say it's a skill that decides your income. By the end of today, you're not just going to know what this skill is. You're going to see exactly how it's been shaping your results and how you can use it to your advantage immediately. And I want you to understand this. Every conversation you have is a sales conversation. Every conversation you have with yourself, like whatever time zone you're in, look how you woke up today. You sold yourself on an idea. You either started your day on fire or you just went to what you always do, you know? So you sold yourself on that idea. So every time I'm talking to somebody, I'm either selling an idea, product, or service. So are you. So you've got to understand you already are selling and it's how you're selling. It's not what you do, it's how you do it that makes the difference. Now, if you master this, you will create your own economy. And I promise you this, if you truly master this skill, and I'm not talking about halfway, but on a deep identity level, because selling is identity. That's all selling is. But you will stop depending on the economy and you will start creating your own. And I want you to let that sink in for a moment. Like, how would it feel if you had the best economy that you've ever had? Like, how would you feel if 2026 you were in control of your economy? And some of you probably don't believe it. Now, that's a mindset thing. That's a mindset. Remember, there's two things we always have to master: our mindset and our skill set. Now, most people are at the mercy of their boss, the industry, the market, and their customer. And they're constantly blaming their results of what's happening in the world. They win when the economy is good, and they struggle when the economy shifts. But when you master this skill, you're not going to play that game anymore. You're not going to let anything control you but you. Now, you want to really take in this idea I'm about to share. I want you to commit to yourself. You're never going to let anyone dictate your income. You're never going to let anyone dictate what is possible. And I will tell you this, like right now for me, I'm creating the best results of my life, but it's inferior to who I can be. And I know that. That's why our soul is for expansion and growth, to constantly get better. See, you don't rise and fall with circumstances. You don't wait for permission. You don't rely on perfect conditions. Oh, it's the right time. It's always by the person you're becoming. So when you master this, and today I'm going to activate you, but I'm going to show you exactly what happens by the end of this presentation. Now, I'm going to reveal to you why sales is a skill that decides your income and what it actually takes to master it. Everything changes when the right idea meets the right person. Now, forget about everyone on this webinar. I'm only talking to you. Now, you've got to ask yourself, am I open-minded? Because like Napoleon Hill says, if you're going to achieve great things in life, it demands open-mindedness. So you have to be ready to receive it. So if you're tight, if you want to find holes, if you want to keep telling yourself, I'm not a salesperson, you're not going to get what I'm telling you. I promise you, you're not going to get it. But there's somebody on here that I'm going to talk to a year from now, and their income is going to 5x, 3x, 8x, because they're going to get this. And I hope that's you. I hope you decide that's you, because that's what happened for me. Now, today, I want to make this a permanent shift for you. I want you to stop chasing. I want you to understand the only gap between where you are and where you want to go is your mindset of how you're programmed. That's the only gap. That's why whenever I work with anyone, the first thing I ask them is tell me what your current results are. And then the very next question is what do you want? Now, I'm not judging where they are. I know I have to get them to change their programming to achieve their goal. They have to create the program for how they want to live. Now, one moment can rewrite an entire future. So I'm going to start with this, and I want you to ask yourself, like I said earlier, the results are the name of the game. So I want you to look at how are you living? Are you living the way you want to live? And I want you to just be honest with yourself. Don't protect yourself because you can change that. But are you living the way you want to live? That always tells us the reasons for why we do things. Always tells us. Now, selling is the highest paid profession in the world. But you've got to understand this. Why is it the highest paid profession in the world? Because the great sales professionals are changing people's lives. They are absolutely transforming their lives. And they get rejected more than anybody else because life is a game of how we deal with losing. The more you're willing to lose, the more you're going to win. Now, I always say this to my clients. I never entertain losing. Like, I think everything I'm going to do is going to be a win. But I know that losing is part of winning. And the sales professionals are out there getting rejected all day long, where the people are avoiding rejection. They have fear of rejection. And trust me, I used to have fear of rejection at one point in my life. So I get it, But when you understand the rules of success and follow the rules, everything is going to change. Now, you have an opportunity to master this and become the top 1% in whatever you love doing. But in order to do that, you've got to master selling. So every fortune is created by leadership. What does that mean? I have to lead myself. I have to lead others. But I can't lead anyone until I lead myself. And it's always monetized by selling. See, I can motivate you for the next hour, but I can't change your life until I sell you. I know that. I can motivate you an hour from now, you're going to go back to your old programming. I promise you. Okay? But when I work close with somebody, I change their life. But that's the same thing what you guys are doing. Okay? See, you could be like, oh, I feel good, but then you work with people closely. That's how you're going to change their life. That's how you're going to change. They're never going to forget you. They will never forget you. Now, wealth is not luck. It's leadership executed through selling. And this is where you guys have to understand that for any goal I have, I look at where is my mindset gap and where is my skill set gap. Now, I've done well over, like in my whole career, over $1 billion in sales. Been a part of $1 billion. Like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, I live this. I've trained salespeople. I've taken people who had no sales experience and got them to change their life. But I had to get them to understand the importance of selling. Because if we don't have enough reasons to improve, we're never going to improve. Ever. Now, there are only two skills that create wealth. It's leading and selling. Leading and selling. These are the two skills that create wealth. And until you master these, it's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. So if you're struggling financially right now, I'm going to tell you why, and it's right here, leading and selling. Now, I want you to understand this truth. You are already selling every day, all the time. And I want to prove it to you, okay? Every conversation, every interaction, every decision. You're selling when you speak. You're selling how you show up. You're selling when you don't show up. You're selling your ideas. You're selling your confidence. You're selling your certainty. And you're selling your leadership. When you ask for something, whether it's your spouse, whether it's a friend, you're selling. When you avoid asking, you're still selling. Just not very well. Just not very well. And you sell in your business. You sell in your career. You sell in relationships and you're selling to yourself. Think about there's so many people doing what they hate doing. They've sold themselves on a prison. They're living in their own prison. See, if we're not in harmony with something, we're not going to be excellent with it. That's why I'm always telling people to quit what they're doing. Like, go do what you love. Well, Arash, I got to pay the mortgage. I understand that, but now that's the prison. But you are a creative being. You could go do whatever you want to do when you go all in with yourself. But every time you and I are deciding if we're going to stay the same or we're going to change our life. And the truth is, we never stay the same. We're always going backwards. So the biggest thing we sell ourselves on is a story. So the question isn't, excuse me, the question isn't, are you selling? The real question is, am I selling myself on the ideas of how I want to live my life? Now I want you to take that in. Are you selling yourself on the ideas of how you really want to live your life? Now, before you sell anyone, you're selling yourself. Now, you had to sell yourself to get on this webinar. I had to sell myself to do this webinar. And I didn't even decide to do this. I was in Galveston, Texas this past weekend, and I was away from my business, and that's when I get all these ideas, and it just bothered me because I was like, so many people are having such a bad relationship to this, and it keeps sabotaging themselves. It keeps sabotaging. And I called Mikey, and I said, I want to do a webinar because I want to impact people today. Now, sales is a mindset and it's an attitude. Everything in our life is an attitude. Look at your results. That tells us what attitude is inside of you. What your relationship is, you might be thinking, oh, will this really work for me? I don't know. It depends. Are you going to work the ideas? Are you really going to work the ideas? The ideas work if you work the ideas. So you've got to understand right now, every single one of you are either in the spirit of abundance or the spirit of scarcity. Now, a lot of people are wanting to create more results, but they're so attached to scarcity and they keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it's never going to change. Okay? It is never going to change. So you've got to let go of scarcity if you want to create abundance. Once again, it's a mindset and it's an attitude. Now, my story, I didn't start as a natural seller. If there was two things, if you knew me back when I was younger, like when I was in college, there was two things I was never going to do. I was never going to sell, and I was never going to speak publicly. And those are the two things that I do every single day. It is kind of crazy when I look back. I always tell the story when I was in speech class, I had to do a 5-minute speech. And I remember doing this speech, and I basically put a video in, and for 4 of the minutes. That's how much I hated doing it. Okay, I'm going to tell you this. Like, I used to be an introvert, and I will tell you, I wasn't naturally born as a seller. But what I understood that until I fell in love with an idea, that's why I wasn't naturally born at it. Once you fall in love with what you're doing, it is easy to sell something you believe in. Early on, I avoid selling as much as I possibly could. Like, I felt uncomfortable. I felt awkward. I remember I was in the corporate world, and I always call it my walk of shame story. I did my first sales call. It was so bad, I apologized to the people. And I'm walking to my car, and I said, I have two choices. Either go back and get a master's degree in college, which I didn't want to go back to school, or get really good at selling. And I taught myself how to sell just by the reps, just doing the reps over and over again, over and over again. But, here's what I didn't realize at the time. Selling is a spiritual idea. And I want you to understand that. Everything is a spiritual idea. Like, money is a spiritual idea. But I didn't understand it. I was talking at people instead of talking to them. Because I would say I was an amateur when I first started. And once I really understood the importance of it, everything changed. And I also realized my income My freedom was limited because of my closed-mindedness. But when I started learning and I found a mentor who really changed my life in terms of understanding, everything changed. Everything changed. Like, I hate when I hear people will call me and they'll be like, I have $500 in my account. And I'm like, that person is not thinking. That person is not thinking. You have all this potential in the world. All you're doing is letting the outside because you're not thinking. And trust me, if you know my story, I had a foreclosure sticker on my garage. I was 150,000 in debt. I lost my job 3 weeks before my wedding. I was that person. Okay, so I know it. But you don't want to learn from that person. You want to learn from what I've created now. Now I have an 8-figure business. I've helped so many people change their lives. Everything will change if you fall in love with getting better. And when you do that, that's when everything's going to change for you. Now, I've helped well over 100,000 clients now. I've led large sales organizations, and I've generated hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. Now, the only reason I share that with you is because I've lived it. I can't give you something I haven't lived. You know, I have a client that I'm working on changing his relationship with sales, and he is going to kill it. He's going to have 116 sales a month, every single month. And I don't know if he's on this call, but if he is, he knows who I'm talking about. He knows exactly who I'm talking about. And here's the thing. When I first met him, he didn't have great attitude towards sales. Now he's doing things that he's never done before. Now, I'm not bragging to you. This is to say if I can do it, you can do it too. But I had to decide that I was going to do what my goal demanded. And that's what you're going to have to decide. That is exactly what you're going to have to decide. Now, this webinar is for you if you want more income but don't know how. It's for you if you know you're capable of more. And it's for you if you're tired of inconsistency. I will tell you that right now. Now, the real wealth multiplier, it's not the market, it's not luck, it's sales mastery. I always say I get lucky every day because I work my butt off and get better every day. So the more I work at getting better, the luckier I get. And that'll be the same for you. That will be the exact same for you. Now, if you're struggling financially, if you're struggling to close deals, if you're not living the way you want to live, and if objections keep stopping you, and if you feel like you're not in control of the conversation, stop memorizing scripts. Stop forcing conversations and stop selling from desperation. Now, I want you to understand, I started with scripts. People told me you got to know this script. Well, as I got into it, I was like, I'm a robot. Like I'm robotic when I'm memorizing a script. I'm not me. And I don't want you guys to be me. I want you to be you. But it's about identity level. It's about your beingness that is going to transfer belief. Okay. So if you've ever been taught to memorize scripts, I highly discourage that. Like when I teach sales to clients, I teach them how to chunk. I teach them how to master the introduction of a presentation. I teach them how to master coaching their prospect to the end. I teach them how to overcome objections authentically, not forcefully, because you never want to sell from pressure or desperation. Every time you do, you're coming from scarcity. Every time you're sending a double binding message to the prospect. You're saying, I really want to help you, but really what I need is the sale. And they're going to put up the wall and you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. You don't need the sale. You don't need the validation. You don't need the money, because I promise you, if you're coming from need, you are never going to get it, and the prospect's going to feel it. They're going to feel you being pushy. They're going to feel you trying. You never try. You're always in a calm, relaxed attitude. The key in selling is before you ever meet with somebody, you've already sold them in your mind, and then you put all your attention on them and make them the most important person. A great question you should ask yourself is, after a presentation, would I buy from me? Would I buy from me? You know, that is a great question. But I want to show you mastery. Mastery is a different way of thinking. It's not more tactics, it's a stronger identity. And that's when you're going to start seeing sales very different. So sales is never what you do to a person, it's what you do for a person. It's leading people into action. That's what selling is. Now, and I'm going to tell you, it's not about scripting, it's about mastery. How do we get mastery? The only way you get mastery is one way: repetition. Repetition is the only way you get mastery. And when salespeople come to me, they say, "Why am I struggling?" And I tell them, "You have a terrible presentation." 99% of people selling have a terrible presentation, and they never practice their presentation. See, I always talk about the elite versus the mediocre. An elite professional is practicing their presentation until they can't get it wrong. A mediocre professional or an average professional practices until they get it right one time. And you have to fall in love with the idea of helping people. You are never going to be great at selling if you're not in love with the idea of helping people. You've got to understand that the majority of people out there are only in love with themselves, of what they can get for themselves. And I promise you, that's why your income is where it's at. But when you fall in love with the idea of helping people, you're never going to have to worry about money. That's called the impression of increase. See, a lot of people are great people. They go, "No, I really care about people." I agree with that. I think these people do care about people. But because they have a scarcity mindset, they're coming from desperation. They're coming from force. They're coming from need. So they're not in love with helping someone. See, when I'm working with you guys right now, my mind isn't on what I'm going to get. I don't care if I get anything. My mind is, God, what if for David, it just locks in today? Like, it'll change his whole life. I'll always be taken care of. The more people you help, I promise you, the more you're going to be taken care of. Now, I want you to ask yourself truly, what is my relationship with selling? What is my relationship with selling? Now, understand, if you're leading a company, you're a sales professional. So what is your relationship with selling? Now, sales is deciding your whole income level. I want you to get that. I want you to lock this into your mind. It is deciding your whole income level. Sales is not something you try to do. It's not something you feel uncomfortable with. It's not something you avoid or negotiate with. I want sales to become your next level of growth. I want it to be the skill that upgrades your income, your confidence, and your sense of who you are. I want sales to decide your level, not your excuses, not your emotional state, not your comfort zone, and not your circumstances. But when your sales ability rises, everything in your life is going to rise. Your influence, your self-worth is going to change so dramatically. Your leadership, and obviously your income. This is about becoming more powerful, more certain, and more aligned in how you show up. But when sales starts becoming your next level, you stop shrinking and you start leading. That is the standard I want you to hold for yourself. Now, I want you to lock that in. Now, your income is not decided by your product, the market, or your effort. It's decided by one skill: loving helping people. That is a skill. A lot of people are constantly telling people how great their product is. The prospect doesn't care. The prospect only cares, do you care about me, and can you get me to the transformation I want? So we've got to stop talking about our product and start talking about the prospect. We got to find out what their motives are. We've got to find out, what do they really want, and can my idea, product, or service help them? Now, why most people stay stuck is they avoid sales. Some of you probably are going to get off of this and are going to avoid it. But it's a huge error. It is a huge error. Because until you get great at this skill, no matter what you do, this is a skill that is going to take you to your goal. Now, when you don't realize this, you're actually delaying because you're telling yourself, I need more training. You're delaying because really what unwilling to master sales is exposing your identity. Sales doesn't let you hide. Remember in the beginning, I said the results always tell the story. It's the name of the game. It doesn't let you stay comfortable. It doesn't let you live in just gathering information. When you sell, you come face to face with how much you believe in yourself, face to face in your certainty of what you're selling. Because if you're not certain of what you're selling, you shouldn't be selling that product. I will tell you that right now. But it also puts a mirror in front of you about your relationship with rejection and am I willing to be seen? You have to see yourself big. You've got to see yourself. So most people don't avoid sales because it's hard. They avoid it because it forces them to grow. And growth is what they're resisting the most. See, a lot of you think you want to grow, but growth is a spiritual idea. It happens when you get out of your comfort zone. It doesn't happen because you keep coming on my webinars. It happens by doing the work. That's where the growth is. That's where the magic is. So the magic is always in the work we're avoiding. And I will tell you this. It is so much easier to behave your way into a new level of thinking than think your way into a new level of behaving. That's why you get rewarded right away when you get out of your comfort zone. Now, the person who can sell effectively is never worried about money, ever worried about money. But the person who sells ineffectively, they're always chasing money. They are always chasing money. So which one are you? That's what you got to ask yourself. Which one am I? Now, selling is having your ideas accepted, adopted, and approved. That's all selling is. So you're getting somebody else to accept the idea of, oh, you could take them to the finish line of where they want to go. And as soon as you get them to accept that, now you have a heart-to-heart connection. You never sell head-to-head. And that's what most people are doing, and that's why they're forcing. Now, every fortune is created by leadership, and it's monetized by selling. I want you to burn that in your mind. I want you to burn this in your mind. But you can't be a great leader of self if you're not willing to do the work. The work is in the identity. The work is in the work you're avoiding, but you still do it anyway. That's where the work is. Now, if you have something good, you've got to get it in as many people's hands as possible. As many people. Like that's what King Solomon says. You know, if you have something good, you get it in as many people's hands as possible. Like I want my products, my ideas to get into millions of people's hands because I know what the outcome is going to be. I know what the outcome is going to be. Like I do this thing where I'll work with somebody for a day. They pay me $100,000 and I coach them for a day. Well, I was talking to my client Charles yesterday. He goes, Arash, you don't even understand. When we worked 3 months ago for a day, I already got 10x what you gave me. He got his 2 biggest clients. And there was 2 ideas he said you shared with me that changed my whole life. And honestly, when I coached him, I didn't think they were that big of ideas. But I get it because one idea changed my life. See, I want you guys to start understanding that you are the game. You know, the mountain you have in front of you isn't anybody else. It isn't your competitors. It's you. So this is why you work on yourself every day. And if you're not studying an hour a day, and if you're not getting mentorship, you are crazy. You are crazy because everybody needs help. I will tell you that right now. I will tell you that that is the number one thing you have to understand. Now, why do you put out an offer? An offer isn't to get, it's to change people's lives. That's why you are putting out the offer. And I want you to plant more seeds. I want you to put out a lot more offers than you guys are putting out. All an offer is an invitation. That's all an offer is. It's an invitation. But the whole purpose of an offer is to change somebody's life. And if you're not doing that, you're not in love with the idea of selling. You are not in love with the idea of selling, and you don't believe in what you're doing. I promise you that. Now, selling is always, and I said this earlier, it's doing something for somebody. You're taking up a mountain and you're taking them by the hand on showing them exactly what to do and how to do it. You're not doing it to someone. Now, a lot of people are doing it to people. That's why they're not good at selling, okay? We're all spiritual beings and energy never lies. So if I was working with Bruce and I was lying to him, I really needed the sale, Bruce would feel it. Bruce would absolutely feel it because energy never lies. Now, people don't care what you do unless they believe it will help them. But when you know it will, they know that it will help them, they are going to be emotionally involved. That's where connection is. So stop talking about your products and start talking about them. Start finding out what their reasons are. You have to get really good at this. You have to really get good at this. Now, people hate being sold, but they love to buy. They love to buy. Like you guys do not want to be sold. I don't want to be sold, but I love to buy. I love to buy. Now, people buy because how great their life will be by buying your idea, product, or service. That's the reason. That is the reason. And if right now you're getting all these no's, you're not understanding it's your presentation. It is your presentation. And I will be flat out with you. Your presentation sucks. Okay. People are not saying no to you. They're saying no to your presentation. Okay. People didn't start the conversation by accident. They started it because they were open to the idea, but your presentation did not cause them to move. You didn't cause transformation in your presentation. Now, you're never taking when you're selling. You've got to understand this. You're never taking. Now, you've got to understand, you've got to share their hero's journey on what you're about to take them through. And this is why you've got to share stories, because stories sell. But you've already know this with what you're doing. You know it. That's why you're selling what you're selling. And if you don't like what you're selling, then stop selling it. I will tell you that. Like, stop selling it. You're never going to sell it. You have to love what you're doing. See, when we're not in love with what we're doing, whether it's our goals, whether it's relationships, whether it's your idea, product, or service, it's not in harmony with us. So there's always going to be separation from our heart. And our heart is the great magnifier. If you're in your head, you're dead. When you're in your heart, you amplify. So you want to remember that. Now, if someone's life improves because of what you offer, you're selling the right way. You're selling the right way. Okay? Everything, I don't care if you're selling piano lessons. I don't care if you're selling iPhones. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It's about improving somebody else's life. That's what it's about. It's about improving other people's lives. Now, the second secret is selling is always identity before it's a skill. Identity is everything. Everything. It is shaping your whole life. But most people are trying to get better at sales by learning more techniques, learning more scripts. It doesn't work. They're trying to change their results without changing who they are. See, when I made that shift, I stopped asking, how do I sell better? And I started asking, how do I get better? How do I become more valuable? Who do I need to become to help more people? That changed everything. Because when you become the kind of person who sells with authenticity, certainty, and calm conviction, the skill set follows naturally. The words come authentically. It becomes effortless. But when you're trying to memorize, that's not identity. That's called bait and switch. You don't want to ever do bait and switch. Okay? If you don't believe it, they're going to know you don't believe it. That's why sales is about conviction. Sales is a transfer of belief. That's what selling is. And it starts with your beingness, who you are. That is the level I want you to step into. That is the level. Now, success comes down to three things: the ability to lead yourself, the ability to sell yourself, and the ability to get better, to develop yourself. That's where it comes down to. That's where it comes down to. Now, some people have studied this philosophy on this webinar for 20 years, but they're not getting any better results. Why do you think? Why do you think? Because you're not working the ideas. You want to get better results, but you don't want to change who you are. It's never going to happen. It is never going to happen. I promise you that. Now, to earn at the highest level, you have to develop mastery, and mastery takes time. It takes one rep at a time. You have to really work at this every single day to create mastery. Now, sales mastery always starts with conviction. Like, This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it in the greatest way. I want you to become the greatest sales professional that you've ever met because you're going to help so many people's lives change along the way. You're going to change so many people's lives along the way. If you hesitate, your prospect knows you don't believe it. If you hesitate, all you're telling them is, I doubt what I'm telling you, and you're transferring doubt. Never going to happen. You're never going to create connection. Ever, ever, ever. Now, that's why I'm telling you scripts fail. You can't memorize certainty. You practice certainty with the repetition over and over and over again. You have to become it. I remember I used to be in front of a mirror and I would be pretending that I was presenting to somebody and I would do the presentation over and over and over and over until I got it, until I really got it. And then I'd be with my mentor. We'd be on a call and with a prospect and I'd be like, tell me why you did what you did. I would always take copious notes. And I'd be like, can we go over my questions? He never asked because I'd always write questions. Well, I was no dummy. You follow people who already perform the results you want to perform. And I would be constantly peppering them so I can understand the mindset of somebody else who had a much higher awareness than I did. See, that's how you create mastery. But if you guys are not getting help, you're not going to become masters at anything. You're going to keep running in circles. You know, I look at my best clients. What is the difference between my best and the people who are puddling around? It's just one thing. They do the work. That's the only difference. They do the work. So then you got to ask yourself, why am I not doing the work every day? Because your life is going by so fast. Look, we're already in February. It goes by so fast. You know, but you don't respect yourself. See, self-respect is a huge part of our growth. That's why I want you to be the most consistent person you know. Self-respect is a currency that money can't buy. That's why you got to follow through with your word. Like you'd rather give your money away to other people, buy gifts for other people, but you don't invest in yourself. Do you see how crazy this is? It is crazy. And why? Because people are so attached to scarcity. You know how I was talking about the spirit of abundance earlier? The spirit of abundance links wealth to the actions that shape us. So look at your actions yesterday. That will tell you how much you respect yourself. That will tell you. Just look at the actions. See, if you keep defaulting to the 95% of your old programming, you're not going to get better. You've got to start becoming intentional. You've got to start deciding who you're going to become because nothing happens until you decide you're going to change your life. See, most people are trying to get their goals doing what's convenient. It's never going to happen. It always takes whatever it takes. Always takes whatever it takes. Like during my day, there's a lot of things that I do that are super uncomfortable that I don't want to do, but I know I have to do them. But I've trained myself for 21 years now. 21 years I've trained myself. So it would be harder for me to operate more in my comfort zone than to get out of discomfort for me. You know, but it wasn't always like that. Now, you have to believe in your offer without hesitation. You've got to believe in it. You've got to believe in it. Like I know my clients who I haven't talked to in a while. You know, I know them. I know they're not doing anything. I know they're not because, you know, when they're doing something, they always love telling me what they're doing. And then I don't hear from them. And then I know they're not doing anything. I know it. Like I don't judge it. Like I understand it. I understand because they just defaulted and started settling. See, that's what happens. People never decide. They go, I have this goal, but they never decide to do it. And then because of that, they settle for mediocrity. And I promise you, that's the reason. That is the reason people are constantly living the same year for 50 years. That same energy would allow them to absolutely catapult their life. But remember, selling is not convincing. Selling is a transfer of belief. That's all selling is. Like if I was working with Jake, I know whenever I'm working with someone, I only accept the idea of what they want, and that's all I'm doing. That's all I coach from. That's all I sell from. because I know where his idea came from. It came from his want. The want starts with the essence of who we are. The want starts in our subconscious mind. So if Jake or Irene tell me their want, I know it's for them to have. The only reason they're ever not going to have it is because they don't do the work. But that's why I believe in people at the highest level, because I understand how the mind works. So you've got to understand your want is for you. But whether you're going to achieve it is if you put the repetition of building that idea into a desire. Now, if you're convincing, you're selling from poverty consciousness. And people are not going to ever trust you. And if they don't trust you, they're never going to buy from you. You got to lock that in. And I will tell you right now, we're in a market that has changed so dramatically with AI. So people want trust more than they want anything else, because they don't know whether it's AI or whether it's a person. That's why the human touch is our competitive advantage. The human touch. Remember that. Now, let's look at the characteristics of an elite sales professional. They have an unwavering mindset of who they are and who they want to become. They're obsessed with getting better. They're obsessed with their goal. They're putting all their conscious attention all day long on their goal. They're hungry for success. They know if my want is not strong enough, I will never override the paradigm. So they know they are the hungriest person they know. They know their want, their goal, they have to want it as badly as they want to breathe. And they come from their alternate identity, and they're a dog. They're not worried about what other people are thinking. They are just about transforming people's lives. And they're always guarding their mind. They get so good at not letting other people who operate with a poverty consciousness get inside of them. They get so good at accepting and rejecting ideas. And they know, I've got to fall in love with discomfort. They embrace discomfort and they do it. And they have the most positive, prosperous mental attitude. Like, I could end the webinar right now if I could just get you to master this. You guys got it. Like, if that's all I did right now, because that's all it is. Now, salespeople are want creators. We ask the questions and we bring the want out of the person. See, I'll work with people and I know that's not what they really want. And then I'll just say, is that what you really want or what you think you can achieve? And they start laughing. They go, how did you know? I said, because I know, like, the energy doesn't lie. But we're protecting ourselves and we've got to stop doing that. That's why a great salesperson is stretching the prospect. They're saying, I don't think that's really what you want. Like, I want to help you. Tell me exactly what you want so I can help you in the best way. That's why you want to understand, just like you're a want creator for yourself, you are for other people. Now, they bring out the desire and show what's possible. Like this whole webinar, I'm showing you what's possible. Like, I went from failure to success. Like, I know what's possible. But in order for me to do it, when I was in a very low self-worth and self-esteem, that's when I bet on myself. And every day you guys have to bet on yourself. Now, selling is leadership. You are leading somebody into action. So I want you to become masters at the word leader, okay? And don't make it too big. Like, it's not what someone has on a business card. It's how they show up, how they care, how they practice when no one's watching you. That's what a real leader is. Now, this is the most important part. Selling is a heartfelt business. Real selling comes from care. You've got to really give a shit about people. It comes from conviction. It comes from genuinely believing that what you offer can make someone's life better. When you sell from your heart, you're not trying to win, you're serving. And you're not trying to close, you're guiding. You're not trying to convince, you're leading. You're willing to be direct because you care about people. Because you actually care about the person in front of you. You're willing to make an ask because you know that staying small would be a disservice to them. And you're willing to hold yourself to a standard because you respect yourself and your value. That's why the best sellers are never pushy. If you're pushy, you don't get it. You do not get it. The best sales professionals are grounded, they're present, and they're emotionally anchored. When your heart is in your selling, your energy changes, your confidence changes, and the way people respond to you changes. Selling stops being something you perform and becomes an expression of who you are. because I'm telling you right now, they're believing in your belief. If you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it. But it's if you come from getting, that's the opposite of heart-based. That is called selfish selling. I want you to be a transformational sales professional, not a transactional sales professional. That's what the amateurs are. They get a sale, they never keep in touch. That's not it. You've got to really care about people. Now, selling, I said it earlier, is a spiritual idea. You do it on the spiritual plane. That's why I say it's heart to heart, heart to heart. Now, your energy is speaking to them before your words ever do. So your connection, if you're not connected, they're never going to trust you. But when you're connected, I promise you, they're going to be on every word you say. So sales are made emotionally, and then the prospect justifies it logically. Okay? So let me explain this to you because this is important you understand. See, most people think, oh, I buy stuff emotionally. You do, but you justify it logically. Nobody buys because of logic first. They buy because of how they feel. They feel seen. They feel understood. They feel hopeful and certain. They feel like something in their life could really change. That feeling is what moves them to decide. But once they decide emotionally, their mind goes to work to make it make sense. They say things like, okay, now I'm ready. The timing is right. The numbers add up. That's what I need right now, right? So you justify it logically. That logic justifies that emotional decision. See, most people think sales is about giving better information. See, we've got to get really good at listening if we're going to be great at selling. You know, you have two ears and one mouth for a reason. You got to shut up and listen. When you listen, that's what creates the heart connection. But that's what most people don't understand. They have it backwards. They're trying to talk way too much because they think the more information they give, the more reasons other people are going to have to buy. It's the exact opposite. Less is more. You want to listen because there's a moment in each presentation. It's just a few moments. You find the want, boom. That's what your job is. That's it. That is it. So your job is never to overwhelm people with facts and figure. Your job is to create certainty and emotional safety. When you do that, because when someone feels safe and they're aligned with you, they're moved by your conviction and sales happens naturally. That's why sales is not a head game, it's a heart game. That's why it is. Okay? Now, I want you to put your heart into your days. I want you to put your heart into your customers. I want you to put your heart into rejection. I want you to put your heart into selling and watch how much your sales soar. Just watch how much it soars. And if you don't think belief matters, I was meeting with one of my clients, Jason, in Galveston, Texas last weekend. And I told him, I believe February is going to be your best month you've ever had. And do you know he's sending me text messages these last 2 days? He made a $5,000 sale. He made a sale that netted him $50,000. And if you don't think your belief matters, you are surely mistaken. You are surely mistaken. That's why you have to have a great mentor who believes in you. Because you believe in their belief. That's what I did with my mentor. Okay? That's exactly what I did. But motive is key. Why do they want? What do they want? What are their reasons for wanting that? The motive is going to get you to the heart of the sale. It is going to truly get you to the heart of the sale. Master selling, you're going to control your life. You're going to control your life. That's what it is. Now, selling is math. Better selling equals more income with less effort. Like, just do the math. Like, a lot of people think $1 million is a lot of money, and I don't judge it because I used to think $1 million is a lot of money. But when you do the math, when I work with sales goals with people, I just do the math. I just work backwards and make it so simple. I say, if you want to earn $1 million, let's get you to 100,000 a month. And I'll find out what their commission is or what they sell their product for. So if it's 5,000, all we have to do is sell 20 people. That's it. So start doing the math for your goals. And then you're going to match your activities with the math. It's going to change the game for you. See, if you think selling is pushing or manipulative, that's because that's how you've been sold before. But understand this, it's not true. Selling is about helping. That's all selling is. Now, if you're waiting to feel confident before you sell, understand this, action comes first, confidence follows. You're never going to be confident until you do a thing. You get confidence for two ways. You get better training, you get better information, and then you go out and act on that information. That's the only way you're going to get confidence. So if you think reaffirming affirmations to yourself is going to build confidence, it's not. Affirmations work. Auto-suggestion is a huge part of my life. But after I do the auto-suggestion, I've got to go think and act like the person. That's what William James said. You got to go act like that person. So I can't just auto-suggest and then shrink all day long. It's never going to happen. So better scripts isn't going to fix it. Scripts don't close deals. Identity does. Belief does. Now, here's the part most people miss. If information alone created mastery, everyone would already be great at sales. It's so easy to get access to information. It's the reps. It's the direction. It's learning frameworks. Not scripts, but frameworks. Frameworks is what changed my life. Now, knowing what to do is not the problem. That's called the knowing-doing gap. See, the knowing is our comfort zone. The doing is where the magic happens. Doing it consistently at a high standard is what most people don't do. That's what they don't do. Now, your sales results changes when you become who you want to be. That's when it changes. That's why I said sales is identity, but everything is identity. Leadership is identity. Now, it always happens when you're in the right environment. Environment changes a game. When you're in the right standards, you go in a room and your standards change once you walk in that room. And it changes with understanding. That's why you've got to study yourself. You've got to practice your presentations. Now, you can't become great staying in average environments. I want you to look at your environment. It is so easy now to get in great environments. It is so easy, right? Then you got to ask yourself, why am I staying in environments of people who are not going the way I'm going? Because I feel bad. Why? This is your life. It goes by so fast. Get yourself in amazing environments. Constantly put yourself in bigger and bigger environments, bigger and bigger beliefs, bigger and bigger standards. Now, wouldn't you agree that if sales is a skill that decides your income, it would be wise to master it? Would you guys agree with that? Would you agree with it? Okay. That's why I'm doing an event, which this is just an invitation if you want to come. It's called Sales Mastering Intensive. It's February 24th. It's one day in Scottsdale, Arizona. And you are going to leave here with the exact frameworks that I teach all my clients how to sell. You are going to leave there a different person. But I will tell you this, and maybe this is you. People who are not willing to go to events and invest in themselves, they're saying they want abundance. However, all they're doing is telling the world they're attached to scarcity. They're attached to scarcity. I don't want that to be you. It's not going to matter to me whether you're there or not. I hope you're there because I want to change your life. I want you to stop struggling. You know, if you're not, no big deal. That's your prerogative. But don't keep telling the world I want abundance, but you're not willing to do the things that abundance demands. This is where sales stops being something you do and starts becoming who you are. That's why I'm doing this. And you stop chasing people. You stop forcing conversations. You stop coming chaotically in a hurried, nervous state. And objections are going to stop throwing you off. You know, the sales presentation doesn't start until you get an objection. But how do you overcome objections? Because you have to understand objections is the prospect telling you they want a thing, but they want you to show them why it will work. But selling is going to stop feeling heavy. Like, I hope I sell. Like, I know I'm going to get everyone in here to know that they're going to sell 100% of their clients. Not because they're going to get 100% of sales, but it's not going to be because of their presentation. It's not going to be because of their preparation. You speak with conviction, you lead the conversation, you overcome objections with ease, never from frustration. And selling is going to start becoming natural in your central nervous system, and your income is going to reflect that. Now, I want you to sell with clarity, confidence, and conviction, but I want it to be rooted in integrity and leadership. You've got to burn this idea in your mind. Money is always secondary, impact is primary. And most people have it backwards. Now, no matter your industry, role, or the economy, your income will never outgrow your ability to sell. It's never going to outgrow your ability to sell. Ever, ever, ever.
So here.
Now, Mike, can you mute that? The longer you wait to master sales, the longer you're going to delay. That's what it's going to be. You're going to delay your income growth and the freedom you're capable of. The freedom you're capable of. All of us, no matter how great our results are, it's not even close to what they can be. But you got to remember, there's two skill sets we have to master. Skill set one is selling. Mindset is identity. You got to master these. You have to master these two. Now, my goal is to get you to master sales and create results the right way. You know, I'm so grateful for my mentor because he taught me it the right way. He taught me it. And we kept practicing together. Now, you know, Jan, some of you on here were there. She was at my World Class Wealth event, and I brought her on stage, and I coached her on stage with her sales. And after our one-on-one, within 10 days, she sold 22 clients in one day. 22 clients in one day. And she's tripled her income since. Now, how awesome is that? Like, imagine that was you. But Jan was willing to put herself in these rooms. You know, Jake sent me a message that he said he closed a big deal that has been a year in the making. Think about that, a year that somebody was persistent like Jake. And it didn't seem like it was going to close, but he said he stuck with me and he installed the belief that I installed the belief and he closed it. Like, think how awesome that is. You know, Renee, 40% increase. 40% increase. So the ideas work when the people work the ideas. You remember when I said, when the right idea meets the right person, that's where the magic happens. So are you going to give yourself permission to grow, to truly grow, to put yourself in bigger environments and standards? But the cost of not learning how to sell, all you have to do is you look at your present results. It's going to stay exactly where you're at. Is that what you want? That's a question you got to ask yourself. You know, the cost of not having this is more frustration, settling, and staying stuck and tired. That's what the cost is. And the cost is living in a prison when you have unlimited potential inside of you that never gets out. That's the cost. You know, but you've got to ask yourself, what if I bet on myself? What if I really did the work? What if I learned how to sell as a professional, not as an amateur? And how valuable would it be if you had the exact sales mastery training from me to create the life of freedom that you desire? Because the one thing I know is all of you want freedom. In 21 years of doing this work, every mentor I ever have worked with, and I have worked with the best, as they wanted the same thing I did, which was freedom. So I know you want freedom. But what if you had absolute certainty of where you were going and you had the exact plan of how to get there? If there was truly no limits to your success, there is no limits to your success. Success has one rule: how we prepare. How we prepare when no one sees what you're doing. How we prepare when no one sees what you're doing. You know, yesterday, our book became a USA Today bestseller. And you know what I was thinking about? It was a huge accomplishment. It actually wasn't even a goal of mine for that, but it was a huge accomplishment. There you go, David. I appreciate it. But I will tell you, I got really nostalgic yesterday because I put in so many hours of doing this over the last 2 decades. There were so many times I wanted to quit, but I refused to quit. And I put myself in environments when early on I didn't have the money, but I knew my way wasn't working. And I'm telling you this, if I can do it, you can do it, because I know one thing: the only limit we have is the limit in our understanding and our awareness. But if you could learn how to create success automatically, because that's all I do all day long. That's all I work on teaching people. And I could teach it because I lived it. I could teach it because everything I asked, I was willing to do myself. But if you had me walk you through every single step on how to create the life of your dreams, because I know how to do it. Like, I've been doing it forever now. But the reason I know how to do it, because I was a great number 2 before I became a great number 1. I had to become a great student. I learned how to study. I learned how to act on ideas. And that's what I'm going to teach you. See, I had a great mentor, but I was a great student. He'd be the first one to tell you that if he was with us today. He knew if he gave me an opportunity, I would do it. But the cost of not having this is enormous. It is enormous. The cost of staying the same is enormous. It is enormous, and we've got to respect ourselves. Is waiting another day, not just another year, another day to figure this out. What do you think is going to change? The only thing that's going to change is the date on the calendar. That's the only thing that's going to change. Until I change, nothing changes. Now, I want you to imagine 1 year from now, you impacted so many people's lives. You were in control of your own economy. You had the greatest mindset you've ever had. How valuable would that be for you? You know, it's not like it's going to change today. Like, I can motivate you today. I can inspire you today, but I can only change your life if you work closely with me. Now, you're either going to be winning, creating quantum leaps and achieving your goals, or you're going to be frustrated. You're going to keep settling. Never settle. No matter what you do, that tells us you never decided who you're going to become. I have people tell me, Arash, I decided on my goal. And I said, then how come you're operating from scarcity? No, you just settled to comfort. It can't happen. So you have two options. And I say this on every webinar I do because it's never going to change. The rules never change. We all have two options. Option one is do nothing. And you're going to see all you did was lose another opportunity. It's like what Napoleon Hill said. The opportunity, when it presents, the timing will never just be right. When the opportunity is there, our job is to act on it. And option two is bet on yourself. Invest in yourself. Show the world who you really are, and finally learn how to create life on your own terms. There's nothing more freeing than that. That's called self-reliance. So tell me if this sounds like you. I want to master sales. I want you to really tell me, does this sound like you? I really want to master sales. Because I'm telling you, you're selling every day anyway. Why not be great? You're spending the time. Why not create the life you really want? This is my year. Tell me if that sounds like you. You know, this is my year. I believe every single one of you, if you apply yourself, if you get the proper direction, are going to have the single best year of your life. If you really decide who you're going to be and who you're not going to be anymore. That's what it's going to demand. And tell me if this sounds like you. Let's do this. And I want you to type it in the chat. Hey, Rick, I haven't heard from you in quite some time. So that tells me a story, my friend. I would like you to call me today. Okay? It's telling me I don't want you ever to go back. I want you to catapult yourself, to ascend yourself. That's what I want you to do. Now, I'm going to do a full day, and the investment's $997. Now, I have a VIP dinner that I'm taking people out to dinner, and it's a mastermind session with me that's $4,997. And then I'm doing a private VIP day 2 that's $9,997 only with a small group. I'm limiting it because I'm going to be working with them one-on-one. Now, each ticket level represents different levels of proximity and immersion. Like, if I just get you in my room, if you've never been to my event, you don't know what happens at my events. You know, the energy is on fire, but the direction where you leave is going to change, and you're going to leave there with exactly the framework of what to do and how to do it. That's your opportunity. Now, you can have any excuse. I get it. There's a lot of them. We're all busy. There's always going to be time to be busy, but one moment will change your life. And it's whether you're ready to embrace that moment. So I want you to think about your goal and what you want in 2026. And we have to be congruent with our future self. What would your future self do? Would they say yes or would they say no? That's it. If they'd say no, say no. No big deal. There's no pressure from me. But if they say yes and you're not doing it, you're never going to get to where you want to go. But this is it. All you have to do is scan this and get in, and I will see you in a couple weeks. But I want to leave you with this. Money is a spiritual tool. And when you start focusing on other people, when you develop yourself and really study yourself every day, it's going to change your whole life. I always say my life changed the moment I started studying me. I remember one day I was having coffee with my mentor and he said, "What do you study?" I said, "I'm studying me." He said, "That sounds interesting. Let me hear about it." And I created my future self framework. If you've been in any of my programs, you know what it is. And he said, "Arash, I love that." He said, "You know, when my life changed, when I started studying me, I know exactly what you mean, but I love your framework." Um, you know, that's what it is. I promise you, scarcity as a mindset is never going to get to the life you want. And some of you are like, "I don't have the money." Go find the money. Go find the money. I had to find the money, and I'm not telling you this harsh. Anything you've ever wanted badly enough, you've went out and did it. But make 2026 the single best year of your life and let go of the BS excuses you're giving yourself. That's selling yourself on what you don't want. And if you keep selling yourself on what you don't want, that's what you're going to keep getting. Don't you think 2026 is a year to build the most kick-ass image of yourself and start walking into it and start really being who you're meant to be? And when you get at my event, I'm going to work with you. When I'm in my events, I talk to every single person. Every single person. I'm making a point to talk to them. And I can't wait to meet you guys. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got a ton of value. I hope you really are there because I want to change your life. But if you're not, I wish you guys all the best. And I want this to be the turning point for you. This to be your permanent shift. All right, Mike, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Arash. And we cannot wait to meet you in person at the Sales Mastery Intensive. It is going to be so good. And I think Arash did such a fantastic job of laying out exactly why this is so important. So we're going to leave this up for you for a few minutes so you have time to register. Thank you all for joining us today. And